me getting started.
Yeah, I'm in the meeting right now.
Oh, you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Teen Town Hall. My name is Paige Ewing, and I will be your moderator for tonight. As people are coming in, we are so excited to have you all. So like I said, my name is Paige Ewing. I'm the moderator for tonight. I'm also the multimedia specialist for Prevention Resources, the host of this event. Prevention Resources is a nonprofit located in Flemington, New Jersey that is dedicated to promoting health and wellness of individuals, families, and community through education, collaboration, advocacy, and treatment. We are very excited to have tonight's conversation about mental health with the second-year residents from Hunterdon Medical Center. But before I introduce our panel, I would like to introduce the co-CEO of Prevention Resources, Leslie Gable, for a few opening remarks.
Hi, thank you so much, Paige. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to just thank everyone for being here tonight and taking the time to join us on our Teen Town Hall. Especially want to thank the residents and Hunterdon Healthcare for being such a great partner and working with us in the community. So a big shout out to everyone from Hunterdon Healthcare and the doctors that are on the call tonight that anxious to really hear all the questions and the dialogue. The one thing I ask is we ask everyone in any of the presentations and events that we have is always to remember that there's a 911 lifeline call. And at any time, at any reason that you need help, you can call and receive amnesty under the law to get either yourself or a friend or a loved one the help and the medical needs. Please know that that information, as you see the QR code on some of us from Prevention Resources in our background, it's the one right, there you go, right there. So please consider downloading the Help app. It has lots of great information in there, as well as I'm sure that we'll be talking about our Help app as the program goes on. Without further ado, I'm going to turn this back to Paige. And again, thank you so much, everyone, for being here tonight.
I am very excited to introduce our panelists for tonight's event. I will just ask for those, when I call your name, just say hello and do a very quick little introduction. So first up, we have the one and the only Dr. Cindy Barter. Cindy, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Dr. Cindy Barter. I'm one of the family physicians at Hunterdon Medical Center, and I work with the residents, and I'm really excited about the collaboration between Prevention Resources and the much younger docs than I am. And then we also have some Hunterdon behavioral health folks partnering with us as well. So really excited about tonight.
And we also have then the rest of these are our residents. So we have Dr. Christopher West. Dr. West, you are muted. I don't know why. I can't hear you. Okay, well, while we figure that out, we have Dr. Melissa Burke. I don't know if she's on. I didn't see her. Then we also have Dr. Arif Hafiz. I don't know if he's on right now. As residents are residents, they are in, some of them are in the hospital tonight, so they are seeing patients, so you might see them pop in and out. We have Dr. Matt Salady.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Salady, one of the second-year residents. I hail from California, but I'm living in New Jersey.
And we also have Dr. Michael Brisky.
Hey guys, it's really nice to speak with you all tonight. Thanks for hosting this event. I'm also one of the residents at Hunterdon Medical Center. I grew up in Somerset County, so I'm a relatively local New Jersey guy, and it's really cool to be able to chat with you guys all tonight.
And finally, we have Dr. Christopher Corcoran. I don't know if he's on either. No. Okay, so like I said, we are very, very excited to have all of the residents and of course Dr. Barter here as well. But since the residents are residents working in the hospital, you may see some pop in and out throughout the night. So you might see some faces who weren't here during this little brief introduction. At this point, I would really love to open the floor to our panelists to tell you a little bit more about why they wanted to talk about mental health tonight, why keeping mental health healthy is such an important part of your life. But before we do that, I'm going to invite my coworker, Erin Cohen, to talk about the Help app and how the Help app is a great place to access some resources. And she'll be popping in throughout the night during our conversations about different resources that are available to you. So take it away, Erin.
Thank you so much, Paige. I'm so happy to see everybody here tonight. We've been talking a lot about the Help app the past 6 or 7 months. 100 and Central's Code Club helped us develop this amazing app that puts all these resources right at your fingertips. So if you have not had the chance to download the app, if you want to just scan the QR code, if you're on a computer and you have your phone, we'd love for everybody to get this Help app on your phone. It has different sections on there: drugs and alcohol, suicide and self-harm, mental health, bullying, and there are resources for you: hotlines, text lines, websites, places to go if you need help. So tonight we're talking about mental health. We're talking about how to help ourselves. And this is a great source to have if you're having issues, if you have a friend having problems. So I really encourage everyone to download the app, get it onto your phone. We know you always have your phones with you. And we'll talk a little bit more through the night, just like Paige said, about some of the specific resources that are on there that we think are really essential for you. Thanks, Paige.
Thank you so much, Erin. Okay, and now the moment we've all been waiting for the residents to take it away, tell us a little bit about why we're going to be talking about mental health. And then in about 10 minutes, we will open it up to Q&A and let you all start the conversation and ask them questions.
Hi guys, I can start by talking. Again, I'm Mike. I'm one of the second-year family medicine residents at Hunterdon. So, in our second year of our residency and in our training, part of our learning is to work on some kind of community project to sort of look into the community and identify what are things that are ongoing or recent events or recent things that we could work on and look at in the community. And one thing that has come up, and it's such a big thing in all of our lives, us, you, and everybody in all over this country and the world really, is the pandemic. It's been a really difficult time for so many people. And a big part of that is the illness itself, but another big part of that is all of the isolation and the struggles that, people are experiencing in relation to, staying at home and staying safe. But, with something like mental health, that's so important to maintain one's own mental health and stay well. And we've been seeing a lot of people really struggling with it. So we wanted to kind of talk to you guys and sort of gauge questions, concerns, and things you want to bring up, in regards to mental health, isolation, and this pandemic that we're all dealing with.
Thank you, Mike. I think it would be really beneficial to kind of talk a little bit about what is mental health, just of a basis, so that when we start asking questions, everybody kind of knows what we're talking about. So could one of the residents help explain exactly what is mental health?
So is my mic working this time?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, I'm Chris, once again. So certainly mental health is a very broad category. But overall, we're looking at things like depression, anxiety, the emotions that are felt by a lot of people right now going through all of this. So please be open with questions. You can do so anonymously, as we said. But whenever going through difficult times, difficult to cope with, many of us encounter anxiety, depression, many emotions and feelings that can be good to talk about and learn more about.
And you bring up a really great thing, Dr. West, about coping mechanisms, something I mentioned earlier too when we were about to play our game. So could somebody explain a little bit about what coping mechanisms are and why they're so important when it comes to mental health?
Hey guys, I'm Arif. I'm one of the second years as well. And I think one of the big factors of doing family medicine is that we view the body as kind of like a whole. So, we know that the mind and the spirit and, the physical body itself, they all come together to create your own health. And so mental health definitely goes a long way. And the proper coping, mechanisms are definitely something that, you learn through life. And unfortunately with COVID, you're not having that interaction. You're not going to school or those social gatherings like you would have before COVID. So with exercise, with with Zoom and all this stuff these days, and then just finding different ways of what you like to do and what makes you happy, because if your mind and your body's happy, that creates for a much better um, person, as a whole. So as far as coping mechanisms go, there are definitely various ways to do it. And I think one thing we're trying to accomplish with these town halls is to kind of, reach out to people of your age and to see, how we can facilitate, helping with those mechanisms.
Absolutely. And we mentioned that because of COVID, anxiety and depression, even just general stress, are at an all-time high. So what is the most common cause, other than COVID, of depression and anxiety?
So I guess one thing about, mental health, as we're, and this kind of ties into what the other guys, Dr. West and Dr. Hafiz, were talking about, but mental health is can be very different for different people. And the way it presents can be very different and unique for people, the kinds of coping mechanisms that help. In a lot of people, certain people might have some kind of biochemical setting that might make them more prone to feeling more depressed or more anxious or having other mental health struggles. And part of that seems to be biological. And a lot of it also appears to be, in the setting you're in. A lot of times people that have some kind of life stressor, whether it's things like losing a job, losing a loved one, any kind of, bigger change in their daily life. And in a setting like this, being isolated and not being able to interact with other people for support, all those things can kind of trigger depression or anxiety or the other host of symptoms that can be mental health symptoms. So it's very different among different people, and there's certain trends and certain things that we can look at and address and suggest. But a lot of it is very individualized, and that's also why I guess in trying to treat or address it, it's important to have a very individualized approach.
Great. Well, those are my base questions, but we would love to hear from all of you. This is kind of the point of this whole night, is to hear from all of you. So with these questions, this is kind of how we're gonna go through it, because I'm sure all of you have a question. So to make sure that we get through, please put your question into the chat, and I will select you to unmute yourself and you can ask the question directly. If you do wish to remain anonymous, please private message me, and I will then read the question without the use of your name. I do ask that you ask one question at a time so that we can make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak or have their private question answered. But before we go into the Q&A, I am going to have my coworker Erin pop back on and tell us a little bit about another resource, which is Second Floor, the Youth Helpline of New Jersey.
So what we wanted to do was pull out some of the resources that are on this help app. And I'm already seeing some questions for the residents that are asking, where can you go and things like that. So Second Floor Youth Helpline, the helpline for Second Floor is both confidential and it's anonymous. So they are available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call and you can text. And what we've done on the Help app is differentiated whether there's just a call line or if there's a call and text line. What's great about this is that if you go onto their website, which you see here, secondfloor.org, it has also an anonymous online message board where you can talk about any problems that you may be having, problems at home, problems with friends, anything on your mind that you want to talk about, and it is anonymous. So we're going to just talk a little bit about some of these different resources that are on the app so that you can see where you can go when you have some issues.
Great. Thank you, Erin. So we already have a bunch of questions in the chat, which is awesome. So the first question is from Mia. So Mia, if you would like to unmute yourself, go ahead and ask your first question.
Yeah, have you ever used the app before?
So Mia just asked, have you ever used the app before? So I don't know who would like to answer this. Okay, then I'll answer it. So
is she referring to the Help app? Is that the app?
Yeah, Mia, are you talking about the Help app?
Yeah, the Help app.
Yeah, so I'm 22 and I have the Help app downloaded on my phone. I've used it a lot of times before. It has a lot of really great resources. Also to like, if you're ever feeling like you want to help somebody, but you don't know how to help them, those resources will help you help your friend as well. So the Help app, I have it on my phone and I have used it before. Okay, so we're gonna move on to our next question from Nabir. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Where can I direct a friend when he needs to talk to somebody?
So I'd say it certainly depends on what their concern is, what's going on. If it's something regarding their mood, something that might benefit from talking to a doctor or counselor, certainly I'd lean towards that. But if it's a problem with school that you feel that a school counselor might be helpful for, I'd urge you to first talk to your friend and see it might be something that even you can help with. All of you have a lot more power than you may know when it comes to social situations and being there for one another. I think times like this really emphasize to us how much of a community we are and how much we depend on one another. And so I'd encourage you to first talk to them. And there's certainly many resources, including the app that I'm actually just learning of and just downloaded myself. There are great things to access.
And I think there's many steps too. There's a crisis line as well that you can call if the needs are medical and the person's really struggling from a behavioral health standpoint. And the other thing too is you can always reach out to your friends, your family, and believe me, a lot of people are struggling during this time. Even us as residents, you can even I also encourage you to talk to your physicians, talk to us, and I know you guys are getting high school aged. You can switch from your pediatrician over to us and come hang out with us. The crisis hotline number is 908-788-6400. If anyone needs that. And I do see a few other questions about how can you tell if someone needs help, and how can you tell if you need help, or you're not getting checking in on your self-love and your self-care. And I think the biggest overarching thing behind it is a change of habit, a change of what you're doing, your change of kind of culture. And if your friend who's normally super social is kind of shutting everyone out and acting totally different, you could maybe reach out and see how they're doing and things like that, because like I said earlier, a lot of us are struggling from different standpoints. And so I think I just answered a few of those questions because these questions are amazing. You guys are.
Yeah, you guys, I think that helped answer Mariah's question. But we have another question from Emily P. Emily, if you would like to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, I forgot my question. 1 second, I need to go up to it.
Okay.
You know what, I'm gonna start with a new question.
Okay.
Nice.
So if I were have a friend and she was wanting to self-harm or do something bad to herself, and she didn't want to talk to anybody, and she didn't want to call like help or talk to her parents, what should I do at that time?
Yeah. So, so are you asking about self-harm, like if someone, you know, was to the point of self-harm, or what were we?
Like an attempt for suicide.
Yeah, so that's a medical emergency, you know, and if someone is put into that position, you know, you need to call 911 because that's something you have to report. And I did EMS before I became a physician, and you know, those calls, you know, getting there is just, you know, it's kind of like your duty to do that, you know. And if you don't know what to do, you know, you can tell an adult who you know can go through the right steps of you know, how to help this you know, struggling individual.
That's one of the things when you know, we're sort of assessing somebody's mood symptoms, if they're depressed, anxious, in the office, in the hospital, just in conversation with people. That's one of the things that's, you know, so important to us as medical providers to know, because if somebody's, you know, having thoughts of self-harm or suicide or anything of that nature, you know, nobody should ever have to go through that. And we want to do everything we can to make sure that person's safe and has a path towards feeling better. So that would be something that is a big priority for us. And, you know, we would definitely stress the importance of, and our goal is to sort of promote healthy habits, you know, over time to sort of help prevent somebody from ever getting to that point.
And to further emphasize, you know, when someone is feeling suicidal, they tend to have reached a point of kind of hopelessness that doesn't allow them to think rationally, and therefore to them they really see no hope. They really see no way that they'll possibly feel better, or no better way to possibly get rid of the pain or emptiness or what have you they feel. And so certainly you might be afraid of them being upset with you, and frankly they very well may be upset with you if you get help for them, but it's absolutely worth it. I think we'd all agree that we have a duty to do so, because their life is more important than them being upset with you for some amount of time.
Dr. West, I'm actually really glad that you just said that, because I was going to just reiterate to all of our teens that, yes, your friends will probably be mad at you if you report it, but saving their life is the most important thing. So just know that, yes, they will probably be upset with you, but at a later time when maybe their thinking is a little bit different, they'll be a lot happier with you.
And their life may be saved.
Absolutely. And so we know that youth, even adults in the LGBTQ community, are at higher risks of depression, anxiety, stress, even suicide. So Erin is here with our next resource for LGBTQ youth.
Yes, the Trevor Project is a really great resource that we also have on the app, and it comes under different categories on our app as well. And really, the Trevor Project is specifically for LGBTQ youth in trying to help them. And on their website, they have a lot of different resources. They have their Trevor Lifeline. So if there's a young person in crisis, feeling suicidal, or in need of safe and judgment-free place to talk, you can go to their website and talk with them. They have a free and confidential chat, so you can do secure instant messaging with live help to help anybody. And then you can also text. They also have Trevor Space, where you can, it's a social media site basically for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning youth under the age of 25 and their friends and allies. So you can call or text 24/7, visit their website. It's a really great resource. It is also on the Help app. So if you don't remember what it is right now, you can log in and take a look, especially if you have friends in the LGBTQ community, because they are at a higher risk.
Great, thank you, Erin. So we'll go on to our next question, which came from Nora Cubberly. So go ahead, Nora.
Hi, I'm Nora. So I'm really interested in philosophy, just learning, about different religions and different theories. And so at least from at least a Buddhist or Taoist standpoint, striving for happiness isn't realistic just because, inevitably life is going to include suffering. So I was just wondering, from a medical standpoint, is happiness the ideal goal?
I think that everybody has a different idea of what happiness is, and I think it's for you to kind of figure that out. I think, happiness it's something it's fluid and it's constantly changing. I don't think that goals or reaching goals necessarily equate to happiness. I think it's, what you should kind of, at least for me, is just having a sense of, self and being comfortable with that. That's, I guess, my version of happiness.
I guess one of the privileges of being a doctor is we get to see kind of a lot of people's lives unfold. So I guess just from practical experience, the happiest people, I don't know if I would be able to say that it was always the people who went for happiness, but generally the people who have strong, long enduring relationships, who are grateful, who are kind of have some sort of goal in mind, not necessarily specifically happiness, but yeah, it's those people. Yeah, those are the people who tend to be the most pleasant patients to interact with.
Well,
Another point I think this ties into too is sometimes, striving for perfection can be, it can cause somebody to be almost too hard on themselves. And I know especially in high school, it's a time when, you're trying to accomplish so much, to accomplish great things in life. And, sometimes driving yourself too hard towards perfection can be counterintuitive and be not as good for mental health. So, I think what a lot of these guys were saying, more of that feeling of balance and, appreciation and satisfaction with your own life and the way things are going can be great for mental health.
So I just received a question. Why does social media affect our mental health?
So this is you guys asked really good questions. And so I think the constant stimulation that social media gives you, on TikTok and Instagram and things like that, where you're scrolling to the next picture or video, of these idealistic individuals, and I think that especially when you're at home and enveloping yourself in these things, it's easy to overly like Mike Dr. Brisky was saying, be overly hard on yourself. So especially in this age of social media, the comparison type of lifestyle is easy to do. Why is it that so and so is a millionaire when they make TikTok videos, and we are working super hard, right? Like, it's easy to make those comparisons. And also I think behind the scenes of social media and Facebook and things like that, when I went to high school, it was like Facebook was just starting. things like that. So, you know, it's easy to get in arguments and things with people online, and easier for kind of the cyberbullying that you hear about, which is definitely not good for mental health at all. But, you know, on the flip side of that, it's also great to keep up with people and, you know, share good news and, you know, continue to I lost my train of thought. But yeah, so I think that, you know, social media used in the right way can definitely be beneficial. But I can definitely see how social media now, especially with COVID and being at home and scrolling for hours and hours, because I've been there too. You know, you scroll and 20 minutes are gone, and you're like, oh man, I should probably do something. But yeah, and definitely try to limit yourself if you are getting those obsessive feelings that Dr. Brisky were talking about.
Absolutely. And if you do have those feelings, we have Aaron once again with another resource.
Wow.
I know we have so many, it's great. The crisis text line, which actually I think, Arif, you mentioned this.
Well, actually, the one that he mentioned, I'm going to be talking about later also. So I'm glad that he did mention this. But this particular crisis text line is a free 24 hours, 7 days a week support for those that are in crisis. You can talk with a trained crisis counselor. It can be any crisis. I was looking at their website again just to see what other things were on their website they talked about. If you are experiencing election stress, COVID-19 stress, any anxiety, emotional abuse, depression, feeling thoughts of suicide, you can call and text, or excuse me, you can text them there. So it's just text home to 741-741, and you can speak with highly trained staff.
Great. Thank you so much, Aaron. So we go into our next question from Samantha Couch. Go ahead, Samantha.
What are some tips for managing stress during online schooling?
I think one thing, speaking from personal experience, that like works for me anytime I'm, you know, overworked, maybe, you know, don't have as much going on, is just kind of finding some activity that you enjoy doing and making some time for it. You know, you can do it every day or at every kind of regular interval. And like we were saying, that, you know, wellness and coping strategies can be different for everybody. But if you have something that you enjoy doing, you know, it could be helpful, I think, to break up the monotony of staring at a computer, doing online school. And obviously you have to, you know, focus on doing all the schoolwork you need and studying as hard as you need, but kind of having some balance in your life and doing the things that you love still, I think, is like so important.
Thank you. And I know all of you want to mention something, all the residents, but we have so many questions. I am going to just keep it one resident per question so we can hopefully get through more. So we have a question from Sabi. If you would like to if you would like to say your question.
Hi, so my question was, are there any coping methods that may seem healthy but really are not?
So certainly there are many, you know, healthy and unhealthy coping mechanisms to consider. And unfortunately, a lot of times, kind of the ones that seem like the quickest fix are the ones that have significant drawbacks. So certainly, you know, you can get into substance abuse type things where, you know, you're affecting the chemicals in the brain in a way that might make you feel good temporarily. But unfortunately, in all those cases, there are also significant drawbacks, and that's why, you know, they aren't things that are encouraged. When it comes to kind of what we call defense mechanisms, so ways of dealing with things in healthy and negative ways, for instance, humor is generally seen as a healthy, positive defense mechanism. But, you know, other things like kind of displacement, so kind of if someone's mean to you, being mean to someone else, tend to kind of lead to more psychological turmoil for yourself, and ultimately might feel good in the moment, but don't tend to lead to good effects for you. But I think focusing on as cliche and fuzzy as it might sound, positive ways of kind of dealing with stress tend to work out a lot better, not only for other people, but for you. We're all, social beings. Most of us are not sociopaths. So if we're hurting other people, it tends to hurt us.
Hey, Subby, did you have something in mind, like a specific mechanism that you thought was on, that you wanted to ask about?
No, just in general.
Okay. Yeah.
Great, thank you. I just received another question. So how do I know if my friend is struggling with depression? What are the signs?
Yeah, so I kind of touched on this earlier because I did see a lot of questions with similar kind of styles. Some of your close friends, you know them pretty well, so if they're isolating themselves, if they're spending more time alone and changing kind of who they are, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with change, but if you start noticing that they're acting like abnormally and things like that, sometimes people cover it up and you'll never know. But always just putting your best foot forward and kind of asking and just kind of keeping an eye on your friends and people in your lives, because everyone's struggling through something else. And so just kind of be kind and try to see if you can help them in whatever way or capacity they need.
Just very quickly, in addition to sadness, which we all associate with depression, that isn't always the predominant symptom. A lot of times it's just decreased interest, where people used to like doing a lot of things, used to like painting or had various hobbies, and suddenly they just don't feel enjoyment from doing anything. And so that's definitely something to look for as well.
Thank you. So Amy Torres Valverde had a question. Go ahead, Amy.
So I just had a question about the mental health stigma around minorities, and what are some solutions to that?
So Dr. Barter, actually, one of our mentors and attendings, has a lot of interaction and connections with the Latino community, and I think as physicians too, and we're interviewing for the next class of residents here, and a lot of questions we do get are, how are we kind of working with healthcare disparities, and that kind of goes to your question. So breaking a stigma, starts from yourself, and starts from the people around you, and kind of goes from there, and it's from the top down. So, teaching other physicians and things about, being tolerant and, expanding people's kind of knowledge about different cultures and things like that are kind of good places to start.
And I would like to encourage all of you to think about going into healthcare or mental health, because the more diverse providers we have in whatever aspect that may be, I think that helps decrease some of the stigma as well. So if any of you are interested in careers in healthcare, come talk to us.
Yeah, anytime.
Okay, and TJ, you have a question. Go ahead. TJ Wallace. I only know because it says TJ Zagad.
Sure. My question was if mental health problems like ran through families.
Yes.
They definitely can. A lot of times we see these trends run through families, and some of it is just genetics and, a family history of certain mental health conditions running in the family. And part of it also is the family dynamics, the environment people grow up in, and the kind of behaviors they learn. For example, like when Dr. West was talking about harmful, coping behaviors, sometimes though, like, directing your anger against somebody else, sometimes those things perpetuate, and it can be really hard to break the cycle. And, in trying to break that cycle, there really shouldn't be any shame or stigma around it. It's just about finding, the help you need, because your health, your mental health, your whole well-being is so important.
So another question is from Alexis's iPhone. I know we have a few Alexises on. So whichever one that is.
Hello.
Hi.
So my question is just, what are some of like the coping mechanisms that you suggest people try if they're struggling with anxiety?
So again, like, even though it can be so dependent on what works for a certain person and what gives them joy or contentment, one that I think is kind of interesting and really ties in medically is just deep breathing, slow, deep breathing. There's certain specific techniques, even like the 4-7-8 breathing technique, which is, kind of relaxed, slow breathing, where you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold the breath for 7 seconds, and exhale for 8 seconds. So it's 4-7-8. And it, in a way, really works medically and physiologically by sort of stimulating your vagal nerve, which is a system in your body that sort of calms your body down, and can really target a lot of the manifestations of anxiety that present in one's body.
Thank you.
Great. I have a question from Kyle Penny. Go ahead, Kyle.
Hi, everyone. I think my question's been somewhat answered throughout our discussion, but I was just wondering what are some ways that every day you can kind of work towards benefiting your mental health, any activities or actions that you can do?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, like eating well, exercising, sleeping well, there are huge benefits medically and, through science. But also like practicing kind of mindfulness and gratitude, both of those things every day, just kind of waking up and doing that can definitely help. And just those are just a couple of things to add on to what we were talking about earlier.
And then just to expand on mindfulness and then kind of answering the question of coping with anxiety, just related to, like, I guess a more mental way of kind of being mindful is, especially if we're having anxious thoughts, is like asking ourselves the question of what are we afraid of? And they're usually specific kind of things that we're fearing. And then one good thing to do is just go to someone else that we trust and say, like, oh, is this realistic? Is this a rational fear? Is this, justified because of some circumstance? I think that might be another example of just sort of being mindful of, like, what's actually going on in our heads. Like, what are we thinking? What are we afraid of? What are we feeling? Those sorts of things. So that's another thing too.
And Dr. Salady, I'm so happy you brought up mindfulness because our partners over at One Voice have Mindfulness Mondays. So every Monday for, I think it's like only 10 minutes, they have 10 minutes of just being mindful. They usually have some sort of conversation about whatever the topic is. So I will make sure that we send you all the flyer from Mindfulness Mondays so that you can hop on in if you do want to join in and add a little bit of mindfulness to your Monday. But Erin, she has another resource yet again, Emergency Mental Health Services. So go ahead and take it away, Erin.
Thank you. So this is actually what Dr. Hafiz was talking about before. So what I want to tell you is on the Help app, we have local, state, and national resources for you. And this is one of our local ones specifically for Hunterdon. And so I think he gave the phone number 908-788-6400 earlier in the call. And you can call 24/7 and speak with highly trained staff that have extensive experience in crisis intervention strategies. They also do mobile outreach. They can come and try to help de-escalate issues before somebody has to necessarily go to the hospital. And they also work with the local police departments to ensure the safety of their potential clients. I do want to mention, and it says on here, there's parental consent is required to treat individuals under the age of 18. So some of these resources that we've talked about, you can call and you can text, and you do not have to have parental consent. When you are going through this, if you're taking this avenue as a resource, you will need to have consent to be treated under the age of 18.
Great, thank you, Erin. Okay, so we have the next question. Let me see. This one, Erin, you might also be able to help answer. It's from Mia's parent. I don't know if Mia's parent is on and wants to speak, or I can just ask the question for them. Okay, so the question is, how is the Help app different from Child Help Talkline, childhelp.org, and the teenlineonline.org? And maybe this website will help people, yourlifeyourvoice.com.
Yeah, so these are also other resources. So really, how is it different than the Help app? The Help app is just an app that we have created that puts all the resources together. So these are some resources that we do not have on the Help app. And I was looking at some of them, like TeenLine is talking about teens who are trained to talk to other teens. So that is a good resource to use. I think those resources are just fine. The only real difference really with those is that our Help app that we have created puts all of the resources. It's almost like having a little phone book for needing help just at your fingertips. So we've just put everything together for you. So you're not looking around like, okay, so we're having an issue with bullying. Where should we look? Oh, somebody's having trouble and are having suicidal thoughts. Where should we look? We've put everything together and put it into categories for you to find. So I hope that answers Mia's question.
Great, thank you. So the next question we have is from Jasmine L. Jasmine, go ahead and ask your question.
So you guys give like a lot of like recommendations and tips as to like help people who want to be helped. But in cases where it's like they don't want to be helped, I know you touched upon it earlier, like to call, but is there any other way without having to get like authorities involved when someone's like, hey, I'm struggling with this, but like it's nothing, it's no big deal, but like they're clearly struggling?
Yeah, so certainly if someone confides in you, you know, that they are struggling in something, even if they minimize it, often they you know do feel, at least on some level, that they might need help or might need assistance with that. It doesn't mean you have to go and tell someone, as long as they're not saying they're immediately going to harm themselves. But I think it's often a sign that they trust you, and that they feel that you might be in a position to be there for them. And a lot of times people just need to talk things out, to not feel alone, to feel that they're not going through things unsupported by others. So just listening is massively helpful for a lot of people. Just letting them talk through things, they can even come to their own insights. So I think just being having open ears is in and of itself a wonderful thing.
Thank you. I have a question here that says, what could someone do for a parent struggling with mental illness?
That's a hard one, I think, because you're saying from the perspective of like you as a son or daughter or whatever of this parent who's having the mental health struggle.
It was an anonymous question, so I'm
Yeah.
not sure what they're asking,
You know, it's like
but I think so.
good for us. But I think reaching out, Mike. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I was thinking like, the same way anybody who's struggling with something mental health, showing empathy, showing that you have their best interests at heart, that you feel like they might be struggling with something and you want to help them through it, like sort of anything. But go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say also, like, your safety as a high school student, teenager is super important too. If you're feeling unsafe at home and things like that, because of the mental health illness, then reach out, and if you do want to talk to someone or reach out, let someone in the family know, or if you want to reach out to some of the resources that Erin kind of put out. But I think growing up, in an environment like that can definitely affect you later on as well, because your brain is still molding, your coping mechanisms and everything are still molding. So, and then from like an empathy standpoint, like Mike said, definitely wanting the best for your loved one. And so, reach out.
And Jess, I know we have so many more questions. I assure you all, we will take the chat and we will have all the questions answered and we will put it on our website. But this will be the last question of the night, just because we are running out of time and we do have one more game left to play. So this question is from Tony. Tony, go ahead and ask your question.
Sorry about that. I was trying to figure out how to unmute myself. So I'm a parent. I have a teenager, 2 of them. I know that they need to talk to somebody, but they don't want to. How do I, are there other types of people for them to talk to than just like going to a psychiatrist or something, like somebody that could be on their level, to help them with whatever they're going through, because they don't want to talk to me, and let alone a stranger.
I mean, I think we're all open as family medicine docs to, have, anyone come into our office, but to not be a stranger, I think it would be hard. But if someone is definitely struggling, a lot of the resources that Aaron went through could definitely be a good place to start. And then kind of seeing how they're acting with their friends and things like that could maybe give you an idea. I'm not a parent, so I'm not sure.
If I can just go ahead and add there, just as a parent as well, but we also, and Amanda did a good job, she put it in the chat, but there's resources in all the schools that the student assistant counselors are trained to work with adolescents, and they have a really, I know a lot of them here in Hunterdon County, they're excellent. So you can really encourage your teenagers to reach out to them, or you can even ask student assistance counselors at your school to reach out to your teen if you think they're struggling, just to check in. They can do that anonymously, and they're a great resource within the school. But most of the students in some way or another will know of their student assistant counselors. So that's something that you can encourage as well.
And just to emphasize, people trained in counseling are trained in getting people to open up. And there are, of course, specialists in adolescent counseling. And over time, after a number of meetings, they're no longer strangers. And they're better than most of us at facilitating and doing that process quickly. But I encourage you to have them talk to someone if you feel like they could benefit from it, because most of us could.
Yeah, and if I can also add too, I have 2 teenagers myself too. We know that the teens would rather text or type it instead of potentially having face-to-face interaction. So with some of these resources on the Help app, I know I keep talking about the same thing over and over, but some of these texts, they can, with them typing it in, it is a lot easier for them to type and not have somebody directly in their face. So having that resource, if it's not the student assistance counselor, maybe just encourage your teen to go on the Help app, take a look at it, and they can text. They don't have to make eye contact. They can do it when they want.
Well, thank you all so much for all of your questions. This chat is amazing. You all are so supportive, but we are going to go into our last resource of the day before our game. So Amanda, cue up the game, and Aaron, take it away about the suicide prevention hotline.
Yeah, so one last resource we want to talk to you about, because we know we hear a lot about suicides and it's happening with young people all the time. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline, you can call 24/7. You can also go onto their website and chat. So they don't have a text feature, but you can go on the website and do a chat. Again, it's free and confidential support for anyone who's in distress. They're there to prevent suicide. They have crisis resources for you and your loved ones as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for all of your questions. I know there are a few we didn't get to, so we are going to take the questions. We won't include names, but we will put them on our website with the answers from tonight. And then any questions we didn't get to, we'll make sure that they get answered. So make sure that about next week, you check back on our website. Our website is njprevent.com. And it'll be a post right there on the front of our website, so you can see the questions and answers, and of course all the resources from tonight. But we do have one more game with lots of more prizes for the last 15 minutes of the night, so make sure you stay on for the last 15 minutes. Amanda, why don't you take it away with our very last Kahoot game?
So before we start doing prizes for the folks that we're going to be doing the wheels, I just want to say thank you to Paige. You did a wonderful job moderating through the entire event. Thank you so much to Dr. Barter and all of our resident doctors as well. We are loving the partnership we're having with you. This was an amazing event. We had some great teens on here asking questions. And Amanda, thank you for running the 2 games. I think everyone had a lot of fun playing them. Have a great night, and we will continue this conversation another time as well, okay?
Thank you all so much. We will be having another town hall date to be announced, so check your inboxes from an email from me. Thanks,
Thank you very
everybody.
much.